All right. My name is Erica Brown. I'm a she, her. Um, I am an African American woman. I'm a blues vocalist. I have been singing for over 40 years. Um, I grew up in Southeast Missouri. Uh, what else do you know about me?
Um, you had mentioned
Go
in the
ahead.
past that you grew up you were in an integrated school, but you were one of the few African American students. So I don't know if you want to speak to that real
Yes,
quick.
very true. Well, it kind of shaped how I uh, interact with the world because I lived in a Black neighborhood, but every morning, Monday through Friday, I had to get up, get dressed, go to that bus stop. And the minute I got off the bus, I was in code switch mode. Uh, and there just kind of was no help for it because there were several things going on. I realized very much that because I was being singled out in that manner, I was a representative, basically a representative of my race. So I owed the best I had to those people who were making this opportunity available for me to have an education that was not available to me in my own neighborhood. It's kind of a two-sided thing because I'm an African American woman and I am in the blues genre. There is, it's interesting. There's a certain amount of authentic, authenticity that is supposedly expected of me because
Hmm.
I'm Black and I'm in that genre. Well, on the other hand, you have to be able to relate to your audience and speak to them in a way they'll understand. So I think, to be honest, I think I straddle that pretty well because I'm always busy being me because everybody else is taken. And, but at the same time, I want people to feel like I am approachable enough to be able to talk to and possibly in a certain manner relate to because it speaks directly to what I do and how I do it on stage because it that is the thing, my authenticity is the thing that makes women come up to me in tears, like the woman who came up to me and said my grandmother just died a month ago and I have not been able to grieve her, and when you sang that one song it broke me, and I had to go outside and cry. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. But if she had seen me as too forbidding or foreboding, she might not have come up to me like that.
What was your lived experience, or what is your lived experience? And yeah, you were we had you at Signifyin Blues a couple times, and you were working that room.
Yeah.
You had it. And genuine. That's the thing. It's like that's what's so great is
Yeah.
that like we've become friends. You and I have become friends. And it's
Yes.
very
Yes.
yeah. It speaks to your authenticity does come through and leads to community and connection. I would say. Yeah.
Mhm. And that's important. It's so important.
Do you mostly tend to have large white audiences, or is it a mix, or have you had the opportunity to play to more of like an African American audience throughout your times?
I'm. It depends on the venue. I will be honest enough to say I play to mostly white audiences, um, because I'm going to say it like this. I don't know if it's true or not, but here's how I'm going to say it. Black people aren't as hungry for blues because we kind of live in them. So
Mhm.
we aren't as, driven to go out and find something that authenticates the way we think we feel. Um, uh,
Yeah, I think that goes perfectly
and
into
before
the
I got into doing blues myself, I didn't need,
yeah.
pardon?
That kind of goes into the nostalgia thing. So that's why I does nostalgia have any impact on why you became a blues singer, or is it, or would you describe it in different terms? But I have noticed that there's a different connection for people who aren't African American to the blues, what they're looking for compared to um yeah, how
Yeah,
African Americans engaging with the blues.
yeah, yeah. Nostalgia does not play a part in it for me, because that is not what I would call it. Excuse me. I would not call it nostalgia. I would call it an honoring of my culture and of my community. Uh, uh, it can raise some um, warm feelings in me as a blues artist. But nostalgia, in my understanding, is something that you look back on and you yearn for. And that is not the African American experience. We don't sing because we want to go back to the plantation.
Mm.
Um, you know, we don't sing because we want to do any of that. We are honoring our ancestors, and we are uh, expounding on our own struggles, be they past or present.
Yeah,
So
that's a great way of describing it. It's a would you call it a release, or is that do you feel like that's accurate or no?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Would you call it
Say that again.
like a release of emotions, a release of energy?
Yeah, absolutely. And I personally call it the washing machine, because the more I put it out, the more emotion I get back. And part of what it is my job to do, and I tell people this on my stage show all the time, listen, I need y'all to come go along with me for a little while. I'll bring you back. But for just a little while, I want you to come go with me. Forget the dog peed on the carpet. Forget your man left you. Forget, you ain't gonna pay the light bill this week. Forget all of that. Come go with me to a place where you can release your emotions in what I like to hope is a safe space. Because I like to create, and I try my best to create a safe space for everyone who is coming in and listening to what I have to offer. And that's non-negotiable for me. It's got to be a safe space. And if it's not a safe space, I'll shut the show down.
Yeah, I imagine like just from my times of being able to watch you, experience you sing live. I You have such a great way of bringing the audience into it and feeling engaged and feeling yeah, I love that washing machine. That's really beautiful. Like just another when you said washing machine, I thought like, oh, the more you engage with it, the less it has a hold over you. Like, the more you engage, the more you're able to be free, the more you're able to connect with others, the more.
Mhm.
So that's a really
Yes,
cool metaphor.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
It takes us all higher.
Mhm.
Sometimes you never understand your journey in its whole context until you get a chance to look back on where you came from. Because you can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. As I was growing up, there was a gentleman. His name was Jimmy DeBerry, and Mr. Jimmy lived right next door to us. We shared a wall. He had a part of a house, and we had part of a house. As I was growing up, my family, and he would get his guitar out, and he would get on. He would sit on his porch and play his guitar and sing. And for some people, it's the quintessential old black man on a porch with a guitar strumming. Well, he was, unbeknownst to me, and I only found out about this a couple of years ago. Um, Mr. DeBerry he actually recorded for Sun Records under the moniker of the Memphis Playboys. And he was quite popular in his day. But I didn't know anything about that. He was just Mr. Jimmy to me. But he was giving of his experience and of his legacy. And that made an impression on me, even as a kid, because he was good. But it never would have occurred to me that probably 60 years later, 60 years later, I would be looking back on Mr. Jimmy and going, wow, he was giving me something that I didn't know I needed until now. I've had that memory of him in my hip pocket for decades. But until I had the opportunity through the amazingness of the internet to research him, because I never forgot about him.
Mhm.
And I ultimately researched him, and that's how I found out. And It's like that Egyptian thing where when you speak their name, they live again. I am really pleased and I am honored to be able to say Mr. Jimmy DeBerry's name, and he lives again and will live on because he's going to live through this interview. That's a legacy that you can't buy. You
Mhm.
can't stumble up on it. You have to be given it.
Yeah, speak on that, yeah. Uh, and also I know, like, part of how you got connected to Signifyin Blues was it was Big Mama Thornton, is that right?
Yes,
Yeah, so that was a I know that's a passion project of yours. I don't know if you wanna speak to that a little bit or a lot,
it
you
is.
know?
Well, that came about, oddly enough, almost as, I'm not going to call it an accident because clearly it was fate.
Mhm.
But I went on the road with Big Head Todd and the Monsters. We went on a nationwide tour, and it was amazing. Um,
Mhm.
but as I watched Todd do the tour, he was honoring the great Willie Dixon. And Willie Dixon, for context, is the man who wrote Wang Dang Doodle for Coco Taylor, her
Mhm.
monster hit. Anyway, as I saw him doing that, I said to myself, you know, I could do this. I could do this. I could mount a tour like this. This would be a great thing to do. And originally, my the subject of my tribute was going to be Coco Taylor. And then um, I did everything I was supposed to do. I bought her entire catalog. I started listening to it, blah, blah, blah. And in trying, I knew I wanted to try and put a little bit more modern spin on the music I was hearing to for my own contribution. But no matter how hard I listened to it, I could not seem to make things come together. I had gotten, tentative permission from her daughter to do the project, blah, blah, blah. I called her in Chicago. But I couldn't seem to make it work. And the next thing I'm going to say, I swear to you,
Mhm.
this is the truth, but this is the way it works sometimes. I had gone to bed and I'm pretty sure I was snoozing because I woke up in the middle of the night and there was a voice in my head. And you know what they say about, when you're hearing voices. But the voice said to me, Erica, it's not supposed to be Coco Taylor. It's supposed to be Big Mama Thornton. I hadn't even thought of Big Mama Thornton. She was not on my radar.
Mhm.
So um, I marinated on it for a while, and then I ultimately went back to bed. Well, when I woke up, the thought was still there. And because the thought was there so strongly, and I've been struggling so with the Coco Taylor material, I was like, okay, okay, I'll give it a shot. So I did the same thing that I had done with the Coco Taylor stuff. I bought all her material and started going through it. And the songs just started falling together the way I wanted them to. And ultimately, I messaged Coco Taylor's estate, and said, I'm not going to be doing the tribute to her. I talked to her daughter. I'm not going to be doing the tribute to your mom. Maybe I will do it in another time, but I'm going to move on in a different direction. So then I started, looking at Big Mama Thornton's songs and, and letting them speak to me.
Mhm.
And several of them did just right off the bat. Um, and then uh, I contacted the gentleman that's actually producing the CD. His name is Julian Peterson. And Julian is also my guitar player now in the Big Mama Thornton project.
Nice.
Uh, and we started going through the stuff. And he started coming up with different grooves for these songs, not so much to where you wouldn't recognize them, but in some the tempos are different. In some, of course, the wording is not different. The wording's got to stay the same, but the musicality of it is different, and it just really started falling together. So much so that when we started trying to do um, figuring out the releases, the legal releases to do the songs. Of
Mhm.
course, because Big Mama's big thing, her big song was Hound Dog.
Yeah.
I'm saying Julian actually contacted uh, the two guys that wrote Hound Dog are Lieber and Staller. And Julian contacted Lieber's son, who is the administrator of his estate, and said, okay, we're doing this song. but we're putting, a fairly different spin on it. We're even putting some African instruments on this song, and we're trying to figure out, is it a are we just covering this song still, or is it a derivative? Because a derivative work is very different and
Okay.
it's treated differently legally. So he actually answered us back, and I was shocked. he because we sent him the song and let him listen to it, and he got back with us and he said, "No, you can go ahead and treat it as a cover. Uh, it's not changed so much to where it would be unrecognizable." But he did say, "For what it's worth, I love what you've done with it, and I look forward to hearing the project." And that was like, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah. That's
Because
awesome.
that's the song she's known for.
Yeah, that's
So,
really cool.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of the way it's been going.
Yeah. And okay, so I know you've also said Willie Mae. Isn't it like Willie Mae sings Willie Mae? Was that a nickname of yours or is
No.
okay.
And that was the other thing that really sealed the deal for me. When I started researching Big Mama Thornton, because Big Mama was how I knew her, I found out her legal name was Willie Mae Thornton. And my legal name is Willie Mae Brown. So Willie Mae sings Willie Mae is, I don't know if you can get any cooler than that.
Right? It's just as you said, it's fate. Like that is just
Yeah.
so serendipitous.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much. Yeah. Well, in this country, they say blues is the roots and the rest is the fruits.
Mhm.
And that's very true. So many uh, genres that are in play today as musical art forms take their take their roots from blues music. And they are so completely intertwined. When you talk about blues and you talk about rock music, there are times when you can talk about women like Big Mama Thornton and Sister Rosetta Tharpe almost interchangeably because of the way they brought it to the American consciousness.
Mhm.
They were full bore. They did not tiptoe in. They roared in like a lion and said, "Here, I got something for you."
Yeah.
And they changed the face of what American music thought it was going to be.
Mhm. And they didn't always get the credit, right? So it's like it's been kind of
Correct.
having to like projects like yours and other, people going, we need to give them their flowers. We need to speak their names. We need to give the
Yes,
recognition where recognition's due. Um,
absolutely.
yeah, and so you mentioned Sister Rosetta Thorpe as well. Uh, do you feel like matriarchy factors into blues spaces at all?
African American culture is, I feel, very matriarchal because of the way we were assimilated, as it were, um, into American culture.
Mm,
Um, we had to help figure out how to hold our society together whilst under so many threats.
mhm,
Um, you know, the threat of our children being taken away, the threat of our men being taken away, the threat of ourselves being taken away. Um, and part of how we navigated that was music and was song. And even within the earliest uh, uh, recollections of how we did that were songs like The Drinking Gourd, which was a song. If Massa heard the song, he'd have just thought we were singing gospel, but it was directions on how to get to the North and
mhm,
freedom. And stuff like that, music like that is part of what, blues takes its cue from. Blues is part of the great tradition of ring singing, and call and response. And um, I imagine in my head sometimes that maybe that was, what was going on, where you maybe see, in my head, I see a woman fully dressed for leaving in the dark of night. She's looking up at the stars and she's singing "Sweet Low, Swing Low, Sweet Chariot" as she's walking across the land. And, and maybe others are singing the same song. She's singing a song about the moss on the north side of the tree. That's the way you continue to know you're moving north. Um, all of that is wrapped up into what ultimately became blues music.
Yeah. Have you ever felt like tokenized?
This is the only way I can say this. It happens to me actually a fair amount. Um, I can walk into a club now in Denver, and I understand that it comes from a place, what people do comes from a place of excitement and happiness, that now all of a sudden whatever show they're watching is going to get exponentially better if I sit in. But I walk in a club and before people will even speak to me and say, "Hey Erica, how you doing? How's it going?" They'll walk up to me and go, "Are you singing tonight?" And
Aha.
I'll immediately just look at them and go, "Fine. And you?" And I had one woman do that to me 2 or 3 times. She's
Shoot.
standing in my face. "But are you singing tonight?" I said, "I'm good. How you doing?" "No, no, really. I get it. But are you singing tonight?" Until you acknowledge me as a human being, I'm not answering your question. And because you've done this to me, to be absolutely honest with you, I'm probably not.
Mm, right. But yeah, the objectification is so dehumanizing. It's ugh. That's just
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Ugh.
it's but like I said, it's kind of a double-edged sword because people are excited about what I'm doing because what I'm doing is going to make them feel better.
Right. And that's the fine line or as you said, you found a good balance, but like part of why you have to have a balance is maybe I don't know if leeching is or the appropriation of the oh I can um I get to, engage when it's convenient to me, but then I go
Yeah.
about my merry way as as a probably a
Yeah.
white person or someone who's not, African American, and they don't have to deal with all of the other things that come with being African American in America. Um,
Right. And yeah, that's very, very true. And on my socials pages, I'm not just the girl that gets online and posts her next show. I'm very socially conscious on my social media pages. And I make people aware of that, as I go through my life. Like, don't think you're gonna take me for granted, because look here. Here's what I understand, and here's what I'm trying to help you understand. Um, but let's not tip that over into what could be construed as tokenism or minstrelsy, because a I have an agenda, and that agenda is the betterment of my people. Fortunately for me, I get to operate in a milieu where um, I can express that in a musical way and open other people's hearts and minds to what I'm saying through the music. It makes me more accessible and less threatening, even though I shouldn't have to worry about whether or not they feel threatened by me. Because what I'm trying to do is bring people together rather than polarize. But I also know that some of the statements I've made on social media have been very polarizing, and I don't care. If what I've said or done gives you food for thought and you go home and you think about that, or you engage with your social networks about that, and it brings you to a clearer understanding of what's going on my side of the fence, that's awesome.
yeah,
Mission accomplished.
right. Have you any particular either just opinions or experiences either or of like how to truly appreciate blues as opposed to appropriating it for those who are
Um,
not African American.
a couple of things actually popped to
Mhm.
mind the way you said that.
Okay.
There was a period of time where, and this actually goes back to my social media presence, um, because I look around a lot and see what my peers are doing. Um, there was a time when I was seeing and specifically saw on one artist's page that And this is when George Floyd was happening, and there was so much going on at that time. And I was speaking out about different things. She had posted on her page that she didn't want to have an opinion on that because she basically didn't want to alienate her audience. And I'm like, really?
Mm.
Girl, that's part of what your job is. You have a public platform and you have the opportunity to literally reach thousands of people, but you're going to sit on your hands because you think you might lose a festival behind it? Girl, come on now.
Mm-hmm.
GTFOH with the bullshit. Sorry. Uh,
I love it.
um, and at that point, I kind of amped up after that because I recognize that there are going to be people out there like that. Um, uh, and that's just the way it is. Of course, I completely lost respect for that artist after that, and
Mm.
unfriended off all the socials and all that kind of stuff. It's like I don't have time for that. I got too
Right.
much else to do, and there are too many things to be. There are too many other things to be done. There's too much more justice to be aimed at for me to drag you on my coattails like that. I can't do that.
Yeah, the
So,
irony of them like, "Oh, I don't wanna alienate anybody," but in doing so,
and
alienating,
they're a blues artist.
and they're yeah. Mm, yeah.
If
Um,
blues, I'm like, if blues is how you make your money, how dare you sit in the back of the room as far as our struggle is concerned? Really?
mhm,
Wow. But
right.
okay.
Yeah, so that's it's that taking what's, taking what's cool or engaging when it's convenient, but then when
Yeah.
things, get real, which is always, when it comes to the attention of, oh, this is happening, these are the atrocities that are going on in the world that are affecting, especially African Americans.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna, I'm the whole I'm not political, but like blue like music is political,
It
it's
absolutely is.
yeah, it's because the way the systems that are in place are directly informed by our political systems, our political um, decisions and everything. So it's very disingenuous to be like, "Oh, I'm not political." It's like you're engaging in the
Right.
world. You're engaging in, especially if you're engaging
Right.
in blues music.
Right. Incredibly disingenuous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so you mentioned minstrelsy. Have you had any kind of encounters with minstrelsy during your career?
Yeah. There's been quite and that's interesting that we're delving into the minstrelsy part.
Mhm.
There has been and it's always ongoing, of this happens more not with black men. This happens more with men.
Mm,
Actually, let me narrow it down. Call it what it is. This happens more with white men
okay.
than it does with white women who perform in the blues genre. It's the whole argument of, do I dress up? Do I not dress up?
Oh,
Some people say that, no, I'm not going to dress up because we're in the 21st century and I don't have to do that. And, we have to move into the 21st century, blah, blah, blah. Well, is your moving into the 21st century discarding what got you here first? And second, I had somebody come to me and say, I don't know of a greater, and I agree with this, I don't know of a greater young guitar player right now than Kingfish,
oh yeah.
Chris Tone Ingram. But Chris Tone don't dress up. He wears, like he wears what's comfortable for him.
Yeah.
Um, and I get that. But I also saw a post from Chris, whom I happen to know, not long ago. He was going to be on stage with Buddy Guy, and they were going to be doing a song that was a tribute to BB King. And Chris broke out a suit and
Hey.
said, I got to dress up for BB.
Yeah.
BB been gone since what, 2010?
Yeah.
But there it is. When the respect is there, it's there. And it's not in his case a case of disrespecting where he came from. because he understands when it's important to honor it in that way. He's down all day long. He
Yeah.
gets it. Yeah, in that particular conversation that I was posting about, it was on someone else's page too, about this whole conversation about how you dress, if you're a blues musician, blah blah blah. Um, Someone had said that very thing. Well, Buddy Guy wears polka dot shirts and he wears overalls. First, do you have any idea how much that polka dot shirt cost? Come on now. He
Cool.
had that polka dot shirt tailored for him. Come on, let's call a
Right.
spade what it is. And ditto for those overalls. He didn't just go to Sears and buy that stuff. You
Right.
know, and when he comes out in his own way, he's still sharp as a tack. He
Oh yeah.
is recognizing. It's not, it's all in how you understand it.
Do you have anything you like to share about this, like their sensuality, tapping into that as opposed to sexualization when it comes to blues and like African American culture?
Well, the thing about the whole hypersexualization issue, uh, because African culture and what has morphed into African American culture has always had an element of, I'm going to use the word sexualization, but I'm not altogether sure that's the way I want to label it, because we are coming from a place where we realize that this is where all life comes from. And because this is where all life comes from, this sensuality is part of what it is. It's the intertwining of what it is. And it has moved from sensuality to sexuality, sexualization, and then hypersexualization. Um, uh, because there are tribes where the young African girls learn their tribal dances and their culture, and there is the hip gyration and the breast shaking and all that sort of thing. It has nothing to do in itself with sexualization.
Yeah.
It's part of what their culture is. This as the same as and white culture in this country earlier in our history hypersexualized. Um, um, White explorers going to Africa, and they would encounter African tribes, and the women would have no clothes on
Hmm.
from the waist up. They didn't mean nothing to them,
Right.
but it meant a whole lot to the very strict and uptight Europeans who were viewing that, because they were busy repressing their women and locking them into corsets so they could barely breathe and all of those other things. And seeing this for them was like scandal. It was a scandal.
Hmm.
But it was just our way of life that has crossed over into how white culture has defined Black culture
Yes.
as we've evolved. There are, to me, one of the sexiest women I've ever seen on a stage, and I don't think there's anybody in the world that would disagree with me, is Tina Turner.
Mm.
But nothing and she shook it like nobody's business, like nobody ever did or ever will, ever did or ever will. But when I look at her performance, I do not see hypersexualization in her performance. People
Hmm.
would like to call it that, but I don't see it. Because she was one of those who rode the fine line of entertainment and how you present yourself.
Hmm.
Um, she wasn't like grinding it all the way down to the ground and doing all this and all that, just for the spectacle of doing it.
Right.
It was part of how she presented the message she was trying to get across.
Yeah.
And she's the queen of rock and roll. Come on now. Yeah, she
Hmm.
is. You know,
Yeah, like
but she was also one of the sexiest women on the planet.
yeah,
Nobody would argue that. But
yeah,
at no time that I ever remember, um, I don't ever remember looking at, reading, or anything of anyone ever saying, "Ooh, she was dirty. She was this. She was that," because that was not the way she presented.
right.
Uh, you know, but
Yeah.
she presented one of the most supercharged performances ever in the history of music.
And listening to you, what it was kind of like popping in my head is like the difference. So African American culture, like acknowledging, like it's not objectifying, it's not overemphasizing, but it's acknowledging
Right,
that this is part
right.
of our like are part of our lives, part of our being a human. Whereas like something I've noticed in my
Mhm.
culture is a lot of shame. There's so much shame, and then that can manifest in the like opposite.
Uh-huh.
So if you're feeling shamed about something, then it can sometimes like you're repressing, and then it can unleash and come out in this hyper sexualization or this like hyper, your focus, all
Okay.
our so much of our advertisement is sexualizing, right? Like we the
Oh gosh,
you
yes.
sell the sex sells is what they say, and so it's just like, but part of why it
Yes.
sells is because of the opposite of this, like, ooh, it's forbidden, ooh, it's um it's
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
the shame
Yeah.
factor. So
It's
yeah.
that fine line you walk of, yes, I'm going to shake it at you, but I need you to respect my person at the same time.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's a fine line to walk
Yeah, that
because I
respectful.
cut you. See, you have a thing here on here about Black creativity is continuously co-opted, causing innovation
Yeah.
again and again, over and over. Have you experienced athleticism emphasized as a practice or value? And I know in this thing, you at the time you were addressing more blues dancers,
Right.
but that is something that is very much a part of, I feel like, a part of blues music, because I don't know that I would call it athleticism, but I would absolutely um, agree that a certain amount of, and not everybody's that way though. I personally feel like in my show, a certain amount of physical movement is absolutely essential to me getting my point across. Um, and but not all blues musicians, you know, perform like that. You know, you take um, performers like maybe Bessie Smith
Mm.
or Ada Cox. You know, in the early days, they just kind of stood there and they sang. You know, and they got their point across like that. Um, um, but then there were others who would use every bit of stage they had to do what they feel like they need to do. Um, I have not necessarily had it expected of me, but or not in the early days anyway, because in those days, I was my mentors, my heroes were Coco Taylor and Tina Turner at the same time.
Mhm.
So um, I tried to meld both of those with
Yeah.
the intensity that I think is natural to me, and that creates a certain amount of athleticism as a byproduct.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm gonna drop a word. I'm putting in the chat. We in the blues dancing we talk about ephebism, which is an Africanist aesthetic of like uh being vital, energy, power, vitality, somewhat associated with
mhm.
youthfulness, but like this energy, like that's part of this passion. So yeah, ephebism as like an element of the blues of it's engaging you at a like energetic level.
Okay, yeah, and I think that is part of um, the fact that when we were brought to this country, we did not abandon our natural way of moving. Uh, and in the case of the gospel church, to be honest, it kind of amplified it because, for Black folk, Sunday was the only day we got off, you
Mhm.
know, and that was because if we adopted the Christian religion, then Master gonna give you Sunday off to go worship the European God.
Yeah.
Well, yay, because for us it's a day off,
Right.
because we working from kin to cane. Um, but we brought that athleticism and that choral ring singing and shouting and our way of presenting praise to how we did that. And you see a lot of that in the Black church.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so yeah, gospel, um, spirituals, and then I would say like as time went on, we had soul. Soul became a
Yes,
huge
yes, yes.
thing.
Say it loud.
Mhm.
You know, the repressive practices of the Anglo church have a lot to
Yeah,
do with that. Um, you know, um,
like preach,
you
like
know,
yeah.
right, right. Praise God from whom all blessings flow.
Right.
Yay. Or praise God.
Mhm.
Can I get an amen? you
Such a
know,
different
um, yeah. So it's a lot of that is rooted in how each individual person was raised, and what they see as uh, um, uh, their norm in being. I'm going to use the word respectful, um,
true.
and not offending others in maybe in their audience by maybe gyrating their hips too much, or
Yeah.
this, that, or the other. It's a very polite thing, and in African American culture, we ain't always about polite. We can do polite. We do it quite well, but that's there's a whole lot of our natural our natural sensuality, which is why we are gravitated to so much, um, combined with that intensity and that need to tell our story, uh,
Okay.
and tell it in the ways that are culturally relevant to us. You know, when I do my show, yes, I'm very athletic in my show. I get around all over the stage, um, but it is part of the intensity that I'm trying to get out to and have my audience engage with, because some of those people, um they don't get that unless they come to me. And that's one of the things I always say about my show. Y'all come to see me because I give you something you can't get nowhere else, because if you
Mhm.
could, you'd go get it. So um
Right.
that, and because of that, it parlays right back into what you were just saying about this ephebism.
Mhm.
um People do not. I'm 67, but I know I don't present as
I know you
67.
don't, you don't.
Um, but it's that thing that the blues gives me. It gives me that outlet, um, to offload my sadness or my grief or my anger, my intensity, my nerves, my fear, all of that. You use all of that. Um, and it, once again, for me, it regenerates because I'm being given a platform to help you understand my struggle. And maybe my struggle is part of your struggle too. And maybe your struggle is part of my struggle,
Mhm.
So let's go on this journey together.
Yes.
It might get a little sweaty, but it's all right.
Right. Yeah, I think the because you're talking about, like, what's respectful, what's polite, like, I think that is something where, um, this, eh, in white culture can lead to an uptightness of
Good word.
rigidity and yeah, of, um, not being able to let go. And that's a pit a pity.
Yeah.
That's what you're sacrificing for, power. Yes, you have the power, but
Yeah.
you're sacrificing
Yes.
being in tune with yourself, in tune with others, and being real, like being acknowledging all the ups and downs of
And
life.
that is one of the stages, right? And that is one of the stages where we get to be powerful.
Mhm,
And we can forcefully put ourselves out there to try and help others understand what we're going through, and to have a coming together. For Black people, it's a coming together. Um, and it's interesting how that plays against the audiences that you see, a lot of the audiences that you see at a blues show. Now, down in the South, in Alabama and Mississippi and Georgia, the blues and soul scene down there is a fully formed entity. It
mhm.
is its own thing. Memphis, WDIA, they have all blues Saturdays.
Oh,
Like
wow.
don't come on Saturdays, don't come here looking for nothing else.
Mhm.
It's all blues Saturday. Um, because that was so much of the center of our grief
Mm,
early in our history.
right,
Not that it wasn't going on in the North, because it was, but they have developed differently.
right.
And it's a beautiful thing to see, and all of that whole arc plays into um, the fullness of who we are, and we're starting to be more vocal about that, you know. Um, I could say two words and it would encapsulate the entire struggle:
Mhm.
Cowboy Carter.
Mm.
White people want to pretend Black people ain't, you know, no, they're not cowboys, they're not this and that, because they've been busy watching Rawhide and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But the culture is very much there and it's very much alive, and it manifests itself in the music. You
Yeah.
know, blues artists down there are heroes.
Yeah.
They're akin to gods, because they are the keepers of the culture. They are the keepers of the flame. So it's different down there than it is here. But what I try to do is bring some of that here. Being
Mhm.
a Southern woman, I try and
Yeah.
bring some of that to Colorado, and the struggle has been real. Yeah, yeah, it is part of the wellspring from which our culture comes. But I also do, the South is like obviously massively important in the story, massively important. But I do not want to exclude scenes that were going on in California.
Mm.
California has a robust blues scene
Yeah.
and has had for decades. You know, the areas of New York, Boston, you wouldn't think that that's what would be going on in the mid-Atlantic states, but there's that whole eastern seaboard, and the music just travels. It travels from Birmingham and from Atlanta up to Boston and to New York, and um, and Florida. I mean, like the scenes there are amazing. I
Yeah.
don't think it is still open, but at one time BB King had a blues club in New York City.
Okay.
I'm not
Nice.
sure if it's still there, but it was for a long time because I wanted to go visit it.
Right.
Um, and then of course there's the one in Memphis.
Okay.
Um, I don't know what his estate's focus is
Right.
uh nowadays, but
Yeah, it's so interesting because you had mentioned, like, the South compared to the North, and that's something that, gets brought up as, like, "Oh, there's no racism in the North," and it's like, "Meh," maybe it's a little bit more it was,
right,
it's more in your face in the South, but maybe it's a little bit more insidious in other
yeah,
places that,
yeah.
claim to
Well,
be
yeah,
claim to not see color, claim to be,
yeah.
beyond beyond.
And that's all wound up in the fact that the northern states were free states.
Mhm.
If you could get there, you could be free.
Right.
Um, in the sense that, for the most part, if you walk down the street, you weren't necessarily going to be kicked or spit on or any of that kind of stuff. But it wasn't the same as, because the North represented freedom. everybody wanted to romanticize the North as this marvelous place, where, oh my God, if you get here, everything's going to be all right. Well, everything ain't all right.
Right.
Um, Baltimore is one of the, I don't want to say dangerous, but cities like Baltimore and large urban centers, places that have urban centers like Baltimore,
Mhm.
are dangerous places to be, can be dangerous places to be, because the um, financial and other opportunities that should have been ours by right
Right.
never came to us. The oppression was as real in the North as it was in the South. It just manifests differently.
Yeah.
Um, so, but even in that, those scenes still they're still being perpetuated today, and they're as vibrant today um, uh, as they ever were.
Yeah.
The North Atlantic Blues Festival is amazing.
Okay.
Um, Boy, and that's a whole wow. One of these days we'll have to talk about that.
Okay.
Um, the representation of artists in blues festivals. Well, it's very complicated because the gatekeepers of the festivals are not Black.
Mm.
So they're putting on what they want to see, basically. And they're trying to insert their own heroes into our space.
Okay.
Not that there isn't room for those people, but in that you're losing the place it should be centered in.
Right.
And unfortunately, um, it's a thing now. There's a festival, and I will not name it, but it happens in September. It's one of the biggest blues festivals. I guess you call it a festival. I don't know. In the country, it's multi days. But I literally sat down. I looked at their roster because they posted it, of course. There were less than 10 Black musicians over a 4-day festival. And this is going from sun up to sundown and late into the night.
Oh my God.
So, um, like, where are we in this? And you're calling it a blues festival. You're like, wow. you know, none
Yeah.
of the headliners over those 4 days, none of the headliners are Black. None of them. There might be one or two Black people sprinkled in the headliner bands. No Black headliners.
Oh my God.
And we're talking about probably over those 4 days, what they're calling headliners, 10 or 15 bands that are, the main attraction for the evening.
Yeah.
Yeah, the struggle, boy, talk about the struggle being real.
Right.
Um, but it's how we're operating right now. I've often wanted to put on an all Black festival in Denver, but I don't know if it would be supported the way I needed to be supported. So I haven't
Right.
done it. I could, and I'm probably one of the few people that could float an idea like that and get it done.
Mm.
But I don't know what I can depend on, because the Blues Society in my own city here does not support me that same way.
That's so.
Um, I can do a show. I've been doing shows all year long, and I can count on probably one or two hands the number of people from the actual Blues Society who are in my audience.
Wow.
But that's just the way it's always been.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But in that way, I'm going to function nevertheless,
Right.
and I always look at it as an opportunity to bring my blues to a whole new audience. So I have not suffered for it. It's just kind of a shame, and I brought it to their attention.
Yeah.
Um, but they don't seem to care. I'm like, I will start working with you guys again when you show me your outreach. That is not this little collective club of old white people who sit around, go to festivals, put up a tent, and pat themselves on the back that they're preserving the blues. Get out of here with that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh.
Sidebar, sorry.
No, you're good. No, I mean that's the kind of like that is literally the kind of thing that why I'm interviewing musicians as well because it's like you guys are on, outside of, when you're outside of the South, like you're experiencing these inconsistencies for as, for as a polite
Mhm.
way.
The inconsistencies are universal.
Because music is such a key the music informs the movement, the history, and like talking about like it got brought over, it you know maintained, like they didn't lose it while they were being enslaved, and that's directly informs the blues, and so that's why I'm like, yeah, I definitely want some blues musicians, because you're keeping, as you say, like keepers of the culture, keepers keeping it alive,
Yeah.
and it never died, right? Like I think the
No, no, and it never will.
yeah,
It might not be as popular in the culture, but blues did not create itself by being popular for the culture. Blues didn't come out of a need to stand in front of somebody and do something.
right,
Um, in the grand scheme of things, as far as Black music is concerned, that is kind of universal. But the blues absolutely did not, you know,
yeah,
did not. Their origin story. That's not the origin story.
right. It was more local, right? I think from what I've researched, it's that it was more um local gatherings, expression
Mhm.
of, hey, we're free now, like let's,
Yep.
let's process, let's
Yeah.
commune, let's, yeah,
Yeah. 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 Just like so many um, celebrations
yeah,
that Black people have had a direct hand in, or the creation of Memorial Day.
right. It wasn't, yeah. I learned that.
You know,
Yeah. That it
enough
was
said.
them. Right. Yeah. They were the ones who were like, we should be honoring the
Right. Yeah. It's a major American holiday now, but it has been so co-opted in this country by white culture
Yeah.
till the origins of it and the reason for it has been completely bastardized.
Yeah.
Now it's the reason for a 4-day sale at Mattress Firm.
Yeah. And it's like, sadly, I hope we're like Juneteenth, it's like, oh, they found out about that. Like, we'll see how that goes. I mean,
Yeah,
it's great
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
it's like it's bittersweet of like it's
yeah,
great that it's now known, but also with the knowing comes the wanting to appropriate it, like wanting to own it, wanting to,
yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Center themselves in the story. Um, just like, yeah, Juneteenth is a perfect example. I had a girl a couple of weeks ago when 4th of July happened. I had a lot of people, because they know me, whatever,
yeah.
um, message me, go, Happy 4th of July. And I messaged them back and said, Happy Juneteenth.
Yep.
You'll recognize this one, but you won't recognize the other one. But we're supposed to be full Americans. We're supposed to be on an even footing. Yeah.
Yeah. And especially as the, Congress is trying to like certain people in Congress are trying to eliminate birthright citizenship. It's like, come on, like this is just
Oh my God.
the optics,
Oh my God.
pushing 4th of July, just no, no.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But thank you so much. This was so good.
Good.
Here.
Good. What an honor. Thank you so much.